Eurotrip 2004, four American teenagers, one backpacking trip across Europe, and a song you still can't get out of your head more than 20 years later. The film bombed when it opened, then people found it on DVD, on cable, on streaming, and it never really stopped. Today, 15 facts about Eurotrip, from the American Pie sequel pitch that was rejected and became this film instead, to the Matt Damon cameo that happened because of a wig, to Steven Spielberg personally killing one of its biggest scenes. Stick around. Fact 1. 3 people directed the film, and one name was chosen by lottery. Jeff Schaffer, Alec Berg, and David Mandel had just finished working on Seinfeld and were moving toward Curb Your Enthusiasm. Eurotrip would be their first time directing a feature. There was one problem. The Directors Guild of America does not allow 3 people to share the official credit. Their solution was to write all 3 names on slips of paper, put them in a hat, and have a production assistant draw one. Schaffer's name came out. He received the official directing credit. The decision that determined which name would appear on every poster and every DVD was made by random draw from a hat on a film set. Fact 2. The film started as a pitch for an American Pie sequel. The 3 directors came up with a story about a group of teenagers loose in Europe and initially tried to sell it as part of the American Pie franchise. When that was rejected, they rebuilt it from scratch as a standalone film, drawing on real backpacking stories their friends had shared. They wrote the spec script while simultaneously working on the live-action Cat in the Hat. Producer Ivan Reitman and DreamWorks acquired it in June 2002 under the working title Ugly Americans, a name the film kept until almost the moment it entered theaters. Fact 3. DreamWorks changed the title to cash in on a completely different film. The film was called Ugly Americans through its entire production. Shortly before release, DreamWorks changed the name to Eurotrip specifically to capitalize on the commercial success of their 2000 comedy road trip. The 2 films share no characters, no storylines, and no creative connections. The studio simply wanted the association that a similar name would suggest. Todd Phillips, who directed Road Trip, was vocal about his frustration and publicly complained that DreamWorks had used his film's success to market someone else's movie. The only real connection between the 2 films was a marketing decision made by the same studio after both had been completed. Fact 4. Matt Damon's cameo happened because he already needed his head shaved anyway. Damon was in Prague filming The Brothers Grimm with Heath Ledger and needed to wear a wig for that role. When his old college friends, who were among the people making Eurotrip, asked him to appear as the bald punk rock singer Donnie, his response was pragmatic. Since he would need to wear the wig for the other film regardless, he agreed to shave his head first. The Scotty Doesn't Know scene had a further personal dimension. The song was written by the brother of one of Damon's college roommates. One of his friends, Jason Adams, also appeared in the film, playing guitar in the band. Damon later described the whole sequence as a family affair. After filming, he left still wearing a t-shirt that belonged to a member of the band, whose bassist later joked that he wasn't about to ask Matt Damon to give it back. Fact 5. 2 versions of Scotty Doesn't Know were recorded before the right one was found. The production had multiple versions of the central song recorded before settling on the final one. A version by Matt Maffey from the band Self repeated the title in its chorus. But the version by Lustra, based on a real high school drama involving one of the band's members, was catchier and fit the scene's energy better. The song's origin was genuine. It tells the story from the perspective of someone having an affair with a friend's girlfriend, inspired by an actual situation involving a person whose middle name was Scotty. The song that became one of the most downloaded tracks of 2006, charting on the Billboard Hot 100 2 years after the film flopped, began as a piece of real high school grievance. Fact 6. The entire film's European locations were in one city. The film takes its characters across multiple countries: London, Paris, Amsterdam, Rome, Bratislava, Berlin. Almost all of it was shot within walking distance in Prague. The Czech capital's architectural variety was used to double as several different countries simultaneously. The Vatican sequences are a specific example. The exterior shown is actually the Czech National Museum. The Colosseum appears in the background behind the Vatican balcony, a geographical impossibility in real Rome that the production was not particularly concerned about. Big Ben was added digitally to existing Prague street footage. Some viewers noticed that Europe seemed unusually compact. There is a reason for that. Fact 7. Actual European actors kept refusing to play the roles. The production's original preference was to cast actors from the actual countries being depicted. This did not go well. Some auditions failed to produce convincing performances. Others ended with actors declining after reading the material and finding their parts offensive. The creative team pivoted to American comedians, and the results exceeded expectations. Fred Armisen's train molester, a character so memorably uncomfortable that it became the film's primary marketing image, was one of the standout products of this approach. The character that sold the movie in trailers existed because European actors read the script and declined. Fact 8. Steven Spielberg personally killed one of the film's biggest planned scenes. The original screenplay included a joke in which one of the characters confused the Anne Frank house in Amsterdam with a brothel. Spielberg objected directly and forcefully, finding the concept disrespectful in a way that couldn't be resolved through revision. His intervention created a production problem. The scene it replaced had been a significant set piece, and something had to fill the same structural function. The filmmakers came up with the Amsterdam sex club sequence featuring Lucy Lawless as Madame vandersex instead. That iconic scene, one of the film's most memorable sequences, exists entirely because Spielberg refused to allow the original concept. The replacement was the direct consequence. A director chosen by lottery, a Matt Damon cameo that happened because of a wig, an entire continent filmed in one city, and Steven Spielberg personally killing a scene. We're not halfway through. Still coming, the graduation party kegs that contained actual beer, the Seinfeld alumni scattered throughout the cast, and the bonus about the deleted subplot that would have ended the film on a completely different note. Fact 9. The kegs at the graduation party contained real beer. The opening graduation party sequence was filmed with actual beer in the kegs rather than a non-alcoholic substitute. The decision added an authentic quality to the energy on screen, and in at least one documented case, its effects became visible in the performance. Jacob Pitts, who played Cooper, was involved in a physical scene during the hot tub sequence. The directors later confirmed that his loose, sloppy energy during those moments was not entirely a performance choice. The chaotic early section of the film carries a specific kind of authentic disorder because some members of the cast had, to varying degrees, genuinely participated in what they were depicting. Fact 10. The green fairy in the absinthe sequence is Kenny Bonilla from Seinfeld. The hallucinatory green fairy who appears during Scotty's absinthe trip is played by Steve Hittner, known to Seinfeld fans as Kenny Bonilla, Jerry's insufferably enthusiastic comedy rival. The directors brought him in specifically because of their familiarity with him from their time on the show. He is not the only Seinfeld connection in the production. The 3 directors are Seinfeld alumni who worked on the show as writers and brought several people from that world with them. The film functions as a minor reunion for a specific corner of American sitcom writing, deployed inside a raunchy teen comedy set in a Prague-based version of Europe. Fact 11. Vinnie Jones was playing a Manchester United hooligan despite not being one. Vinnie Jones, who had played professional football before his acting career, appeared as the leader of a gang of Manchester United supporters. The irony is built in. Jones had played against Manchester United during his career and is not a supporter. The film takes the joke further with an absence. Not a single Manchester United crest, logo, or club marking appears anywhere in the hooligan sequences. The pub scenes, the clothing, the bus, nothing carries the club's branding. It is a nod to a specific joke in English football about vocal, loyal Manchester United fans who have never actually been to Manchester. Fact 12. The Bratislava driver was played by an award-winning Croatian actor. The deadpan driver who tells the group to enjoy Bratislava and delivers the Miami Vice news with complete sincerity is played by Rade Sherbedžija, a Croatian actor with an extensive international career that includes Boris the Blade in Snatch, a bioterrorist in Mission, Impossible 2, The Homeless Man in Batman Begins, and a role in the final Harry Potter film. He holds 4 Golden Arena Awards, the Croatian equivalent of the Oscar. A performer of that caliber appeared in one scene of a teen comedy to deliver a joke about Slovak television. The scene works precisely because he plays it with absolute conviction and zero acknowledgement of the absurdity. Fact 13. The test screening was manipulated to get the film greenlit. The directors needed a sufficiently high score at their final test screening to secure theatrical release. Rather than leave this to chance, they stacked the audience by inviting everyone they knew who was young and not in the film industry, including Harvard Lampoon writers specifically recruited for their reliable comedy appreciation. One additional measure, some male attendees were reportedly instructed to identify themselves as female on the response cards to boost the film's scores in that demographic category. The strategy worked. The film received scores high enough to proceed to theatrical release, where it then earned $22.6 million on a $25 million budget and was considered a commercial failure. Fact 14. The Arthur Frommer cameo almost happened but was lost to the schedule. Arthur Frommer, the travel writer whose student guide to Europe functions as a recurring object in the film, was offered the chance to play himself. He was interested. The logistics defeated the opportunity. Appearing would have required him to fly to Europe and remain on call for several weeks, all for a scene under a minute long. The time commitment was not worth it. Another actor took the role. The most famous name in budget European travel was one scheduling negotiation away from appearing in a film that depicted his guidebook being used across a version of Europe entirely located in Prague. Fact 15. The song charted 2 years after the film bombed. Scotty Doesn't Know hit the Billboard Hot 100 in 2006, 2 years after Eurotrip's theatrical failure, reaching number 75, driven almost entirely by digital downloads. Lustra became one of the first unsigned bands, alongside Lisa Loeb, to chart on the Hot 100 without label support. The film that couldn't recoup its budget against 2004 theatrical audiences had generated a genuine chart hit 2 years later through the mechanism of people finding the song online and paying for it individually. Eurotrip failed at the box office. Everything it contained kept circulating anyway. And now the bonus I've been saving for last. There was a deleted subplot involving a French waiter named Jean-Luc who was supposed to chase the group across Europe because they had left without paying for their dinner. The subplot would have woven through multiple sequences and eventually intersected with the film's main emotional story. Most significantly, in the original version of the ending, Jamie's arc would have resolved very differently. Instead of her story ending on a positive note, Jean-Luc's pursuit would have caught up with her in a way that left her storyline considerably darker. The deleted scenes still exist in the film's extended footage. The directors cut the subplot for pacing and tonal reasons, concluding that a running thread of someone being hunted across Europe by an aggrieved waiter made the film more dramatically complicated and less funny. They were probably right, but the version of Eurotrip sitting in those deleted scenes is a measurably different film from the one that reached theaters, one where the comedy runs alongside something closer to genuine consequence rather than simply more comedy. That version didn't make it. The one that did still charted a hit single 2 years after nobody watched it.